Start and start letting people on in.
Perfect.
Welcome, everyone. Make yourselves comfortable. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. Oh, I recognize some names already. What's up, Craig, Jamie, Liz? Oh, awesome. Feel free to throw in chat where you're calling in from as well. I think we have that open, so let us know where you're calling in from, and we'll give it one more minute before we get started.
I'm curious too, guys. So toss it in the chat.
Toss it in the chat. We usually have a couple of continents covered, so we'll see. London, see, Puerto Rico. All right, great. We already got a couple done. That's awesome. All right, give it one more second. I'm going to pull up some questions here on my side, and then we'll get the show on the road. How are things in Boston today, Justin?
Things are good. A little bit rainy, but that's unfortunate. But yeah, things have generally been really great this week.
Awesome.
So yeah, I can't complain.
Oh, Chicago. I'm in Chicago. Awesome. Canada. There we go. Alrighty, we'll get started here. We are going to record this, so if you have to jump off at any point, please, just check your email. We'll send the recap and all that, usually within a few days. So, thanks again for everyone for taking a few minutes out of your day today just to join myself and Justin in Rebel Fund. Today, all about data and the venture tech stack. So we've had the pleasure of working with Rebel Fund for almost a year now. And they're doing some really interesting, fun, sophisticated things with the Visible API, as well as just, I think, a lot of interesting things outside of the Visible universe and how they are building out their fund, which we'll certainly get into. I'm going to do some introductions and we'll get into the fireside chat. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Mike. I am the founder of Visible. It's great to see many friendly faces here today that we already know. And I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Justin, and then Justin, I'll have you introduce a little bit about Rebel Fund. I feel like you could probably do a better job than I can. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Justin in person last week in Boston, which was a total coincidence, but a welcome one. So Justin and I got to break some bread last week, which was great. He is a principal at Rebel Fund, co-founded Superwall, which is a YC21 company, scaling it to over 250 million iPhones as one of the world's largest mobile paywall SDKs. He also has a lot of great deep experience in machine learning from product roles at Meta, data science at Sonos, and also some stints at JP Morgan and Wells Fargo. Anything I missed there, Justin?
I think you pretty much covered it.
All right, great. And I'll let you. I got a slide here about Rebel Fund. I'll let you give this kind of the audience an overview here, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Yeah. So Rebel Fund is a Y Combinator demo day fund. We invest primarily at demo day in roughly 20 companies per batch, so roughly 10% of the batch. We focus on the top 10% of Rebel Fund, and I think we attribute a lot of the past success to our process, as well as we have 10 amazing interviewing partners who have started the likes of Reddit, Instacart, Rappi, Gusto. And so why we're here today is talk about data, but the way we think about the world is you can use data to kind of filter down to the top 40-ish, top 40 companies. And then from there, we have the human touch that allows us to go in and have conversations with these companies and figure out from there what we want to invest in.
Awesome. And real quick, for those of you that are not familiar with Visible, welcome. We are a connected AI solution for helping venture funds and private equity investors all over the world simplify their portfolio monitoring and their reporting. So we work with a lot of great logos here and more all over the world. So we work with over 950 venture funds now. We also have a product for founders as well. That's actively being used by more than 6,000 founders, and really pride ourselves with all the amazing customers we work with in our team as well, being completely distributed. And it's pretty awesome seeing like the common themes and problems that our customers have. Even you saw here in the chat of people calling all over the world, but all have some similar problems that get us excited every day, and to work alongside all of you. So if you have questions, we love questions. Feel free to enter them in the Zoom Q&A. If it makes sense, we'll answer it live right here and keep this pretty informal. So feel free to jump in and drop a question for Justin or myself. We'll also save some towards the end. But today, think 30, 35 minutes. Justin and I do a little fireside chat. I'll kind of set a roadmap and agenda for us on the different sections with some questions we had ahead of time. But any questions from the audience, please send them on in. That would be much appreciated. So today we're going to dive into 5 sections and then some Q&A at the end. So one, just kind of setting the stage of, just to give you a little bit of a hint on Rebel Fund and what they're all about, but we'll start there. We'll talk about the founder data problem of like, how do I actually get great data from my portfolio companies, especially if I'm not a lead investor or even if I am. Then, great, I have the data. How do I take action on that? What should I be using? And then we'll kind of back ourselves into like the data tech stack and how you should think about building your tech stack, and then where this is all heading. For better or for worse, everyone's an engineer and coder now with everything that's been built over the last 6 months, which I think is incredibly exciting, and it gives all of our customers a chance to build. So we'll do that, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. Maybe just to kick things off. So you mentioned, Rebel has invested in over 250 YC companies. That gives you a pretty large homogeneous data set to work with. How does that shape the way you think about data infrastructure, maybe versus like a traditional early stage fund that has 40 or 50 investments?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the differentiating thing, or when we look at Y Combinator, we kind of care about the ecosystem, right? And so when we ingest data, we don't only care about our portfolio companies, of which we have like kind of a different tech stack for, but we also care about the entire ecosystem. So we maintain like a database of every YC company that's ever gone through, as well as current valuations, and then relevant data points about their founders. I'm sure we'll get into the Rebel Theorem and some of our like sourcing tools, but the idea here is, can we get every data point on the internet about these founders and companies and use this to better do our investments, right? I think because we have such a compressed timeline for our investments, right? We need to make 20 investments effectively in a week. I don't think it's possible to do that with anything but like a well-formatted technology stack. And so we really rely on our infrastructure to help source and surface these companies. I'm happy to talk a little bit more about kind of how we do that, but I think that's the high level of how we think about.
Yeah, awesome. Let's dive in now. Like, I would love to hear just a little bit more, like under the hood, whatever you're comfortable sharing. I don't know what you consider to be, proprietary versus kind of just sharing, but like, I would just love to just go like a layer deeper on. Let's just start with sourcing. Like you mentioned, compressed time frame. How do you go about gathering all of that data? Where does it go? And go from there.
Yeah. So in terms of technology stack, we obviously, or not obviously, but we do maintain like what is effectively like a Python app that is deployed on AWS, that goes and gets all the data from all the disparate data sources. So anything that you could think about where a founder, information about a founder is on the internet. So maybe think like LinkedIn, socials. We have some proprietary data sources. And I think one of the big things that's difficult is, hey, there's all this data on the internet. How do you get it in a clean, usable format, right? So when we think about this, when you're investing at the stage that we invest in, you're not really investing in companies, you're investing in people. And it's almost a trope, right? Everyone's heard that. But when you have enough data points about people who have gone through a specific ecosystem, it allows you to do some like really interesting and powerful things. Like we have data, we have information and data about every YC company that's ever launched and when they've launched. And using like advanced analytics can help us make informed decisions. I'll give you something that I didn't even know until last week, right? It is 1.5 times more likely than the baseline rate that a company will reach a Series A if they have launched more than 75 days outside of demo day, right? These are the type of like insights and facts that you can have when you have like a really large data set about everything that every company's done within a specific ecosystem. Now, I don't think that I think, said another way, I think it is applicable and can be used at a lot of other venture funds that definitely don't specialize in like a specific sector or specific accelerator, right? Y
Mm-hmm.
Combinator is a bit unique because I think they're the biggest. I could be wrong about that, but they definitely have like some of the cleanest data that we can use and leverage, and they publish so much on the internet about their companies. So being able to tap into that allows us to go from a repository of 200 and some odd companies down to 40 that we look at. I think our thesis, right, is you can make better decisions with data, right? And so like there are sector specific VCs and there are thesis driven VCs, and people always ask Rebel kind of like, what's your thesis? And we are definitely like, our thesis is Y Combinator is great. And, we have so much data that supports that claim, but also what differentiates us from other YC follow-on funds is the thesis is there's signal in the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pulling the data and cleaning the data can allow us to have these higher level insights that can tree up to what effectively we have our scores. And I saw Alex was on the call. I'll give her a big shout out. She does a lot of our scheduling and working with some of the tools that the tech team has built together. I think it's like there's a there's a human component and then there's the technology component, and you never
Mm-hmm.
want to be like too tech. You don't want to go to these founders with like a boiler template email that's just boring and in their face, right? They get a million of them. You need to be differentiate yourself. So we definitely have that human component, and we think it's super important.
Let's talk about the team for a second too, because I think that is an important part of this. That is actually not on my Q&A sheet, but can you talk a little bit about your actual like tactical team that's executing on a lot of this work, Justin, and what that looks like and who they are, like the roles and maybe responsibilities?
Totally. So my team consists of a software engineer and a data analyst and myself. We're responsible for all the infrastructure, our databases, and what we would call actually sourcing. I would call us kind of the sourcing team, right? Because we make all of our sourcing decisions with data. Complementary to that, we have our portfolio development associate, Alex. She does a lot of the reaching out with companies, interfacing with the founders, setting up some of the schedules for the interviews with our partners. Our partners are unique, right? They're only working probably 20 hours a year, right? 4 hours a quarter or whatever, or 5 hours a
Yeah.
quarter. So there's a lot of support that helps do that. And Alex is, kind of runs that, as well as we also have. So it's not, our data and infrastructure isn't only on the sourcing side, it's also on post investment side. We have like a lot of infrastructure. We have databases of partner investors. We have databases of um, like updates. So if investors send us an update, we'll like parse it with AI and we'll put it into our databases. We have alerts that trigger based on like when companies are raising and doing like specific things or have reached specific milestones in their um, in their life cycle. We also, I mean, yeah, I mean, it runs the gambit. But I would also say
Sure.
we also have a lot of stuff on the IR side as well. So I know a lot of the people on this call are venture capitalists, and so one thing that I think data has, and I think it's probably the best place to start for a lot of companies, especially if you're using Visible. I mean, Visible is great for this. Um, is I think you can automate a lot of your LP reporting and your basically the decks. We have another IR specialist, Michelle and Luis, who runs that team. He's our managing director. And our job is kind of to figure out how to get all of the data, or basically automate. We're trying to come in and automate as much as we can of like what they're doing, which is great because it makes their
Yeah.
life easier and they can focus on like higher level stuff. That makes sense. So that's
Yes.
effectively the team.
All right, great. A lot of great things there. One question that came in, this is one that I was thinking of because I think this happens a lot. Um, can you talk about LinkedIn specifically? Like, are you using a third party to access that info? It's always been, I think, a pain for all types of companies to access that data at scale. Have you solved it, or is it like a game of whack-a-mole? You feel like you solved it and you have to find someone else to replace it?
I mean, I think that there are APIs out there that can reliably get you this data. That is a place where you definitely should be. Our philosophy on build versus buy, because I think that's kind of the core of the question,
Sure.
um, is like buy where we can.
Okay.
uh, our like we're not. Our whole goal is to make the best sourcing like algorithm and infrastructure possible. If we do that, great, we're going to succeed as a fund. Everything else that supports that, we're not in the business of building like LinkedIn scrapers. We don't care about that. Like they are a necessary part of our stack for sure, but it's like you, there are plenty of APIs out there that can help give you access to that, and I would strongly recommend that people lean into that.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great question. Keep them coming as we go through. Let's move on kind of to section two here. Really talking about kind of the founder data problem of kind of post investment. I'm now getting data flowing from my portfolio companies, spitting off some sort of signals to me, whether that's publicly available or direct data coming from the company. Um, first question: when you're not the lead investor, and you don't want to mandate, a structured way for companies to report or send data. How do you go solving that problem, Justin? Like, what does a typical gap look like of a company, of a fund your size? You got 250 companies. Are you regularly hearing from all of them? If you're not, like, how are you getting access to that data?
I would say that we regularly hear from 80% of them, and we have a bunch of tooling that allows us to like ingest what they have, as well as Alex manually reads every single one of them for whatever we can help with, right? So for investor asks, we want to be kind of on top of those, right? So there are two prongs to it: the human and then the technology, right? I think this theme is going to keep coming up.
Yeah,
Uh, but not every company is going to be sending monthly investor updates, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're not doing great, right? They might just not have sent one for a while. Visible definitely comes in here. We've used some of the tools that you guys have for gathering manual information specifically for our audits and so on and so forth.
mm,
So we use the notification tool or letter. I forget exactly what you
requests.
guys request, right? We use
Yeah,
the request information, but it is more of uh, we think about it as like kind of the final. If we really haven't heard from you, then we're going to kind of go out from the crest, because you always got to balance, especially as a minority investor. Like you really don't want to be too pushy. You just want to be helpful, right?
yeah,
You can't. If I'm asking for P&Ls every month, like people are going to start getting mad.
yeah. Um, Curious. This is not we didn't preview this question, but I'm curious. Um, do you use investor updates as outside of like just clearly there's the data inside the update itself, and then there's the signal of sending an update. You mentioned like maybe some are monthly, some are quarterly. Have you found any correlation of companies sending updates in progress of the business?
It's a good question. We should look into that.
Okay.
I would imagine that there is some at a high level, but I mean, so companies go through a life cycle where at the beginning they're like so diligent about doing, sending investor updates every month. And then then as they raise their like Series A, it becomes quarterly. Then as their Series B, it becomes annually. And then as their Series C, they just don't send them at all.
Yep. Yep.
And that's when you start interfacing with like the CFO, and you're just like, I have this like very specific ask for my audit, and like, please help me with this.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Okay, so you teased this out a little bit. So you kind of built your version before you joined Visible, like what we call the AI inbox today. So
Yep.
updates and data flowing through. You built an internal AI tool to extract that data that actually gets sent to Visible using our metrics API, which is awesome. What does that like process look like end to end, and maybe like what sought you out to start using Visible in this way, where it's like, yeah, we're kind of using something we've kind of built, but you're getting something more from it. So like, what does that look like in whole?
Yeah. So to be very specific in the process, it comes to one of our email addresses. Alex reads it. She takes it out of she basically downloads it as a PDF. She screenshots all of the charts and graphs. She drops it she creates a Google folder. She drops the PDF along with the charts and graphs into that folder. Then we send all of that information to basically chat with a bunch of different prompts to extract all of the relevant information that we care about. That data goes into our Postgres instance. Then it gets pushed back out into Visible and different relevant sources. So we're heavy Airtable users. So it gets pushed there, and then it also gets pushed to Visible. I think I'll say that I did this the other day, or literally yesterday on a call when we were talking about a specific company with one of our investors. We were able to they're like, okay, what's the post money valuation? What's it marked at? And then what's your revenue, right? We could have done the what's your revenue without having to do that, because going through God forbid you just have it in an email inbox, like you're
Yeah.
never going to find it there, right? But we were able to have it right invisible right there in the same place that we had all of our relevant, portfolio mark information that we could use and like kind of reference on the call.
I'm not here to advocate for changing your workflow today, but I do think we can make Alex's life a lot easier because we probably built a lot of a lot of that.
You're
This
not
is a great.
you're
This is.
you're
Go ahead.
so I'll just add, like, I don't think you're wrong. We had built it before we onboarded with
No.
you guys. And I think I mean, going back to the build versus buy, like there are some complexities for, that like this was not something that we probably would have taken on had we known that there was an AI
Yeah.
inbox feature.
Yeah. I mean, it's like even taking screenshots of things. It's like that all resonates with me because there's actually a real technical problem there when you really get
Right.
into the weeds.
Well,
This is a great question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I got
I'll
a
add
good
one more
question.
thing. We originally tried not to take screenshots of the charts, but we just like the context window for whatever reason would not pick up the information in the way that we needed it to pick it up. So we decided to we added that manual step for data validity reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Great question. If you were starting Rebel today, May 2026, what would you build differently? And like what's off the shelf now that you could maybe buy versus when you started?
Sorry, can you rephrase the question?
Yep. So if you were to just restart Visible, today's day zero of Rebel,
Yep.
what would you do differently in terms of like the tech stack? Like what would you change anything knowing what you know now, just given the pace of everything that's happened over the past, I mean, even the last 6 months?
Oh, great question. Um, I I think I mean I, I think that there are some things that I would choose to simplify our tech stack. Like there are some like as you build stuff over the years, I think I'd want to be on more of a modern tech stack than maybe we are, but it's been built up over years, and so we have specific architectural decisions that we've made. I would lean, if I was doing this at a different fund, I would probably lean more into what is available off the shelf and just figure out how to you can hack out small things now, right? Like
Hmm.
it doesn't, you don't need to be boiling the ocean. You don't need to be storing every Y Combinator data points ever. Like if you are sector specific, like you could easily go and look at funds that you think are interesting and relevant, scrape their portfolios from their websites, and then ingest that into like a monitoring system. That would, $100 in Claude take you probably, 3 days, if that,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so I think that there is like a bigger visibility, there's like more opportunity for visibility in the um like for different funds that aren't our that aren't our own.
Yep.
I think we've struck a pretty good balance. I probably wouldn't change that much. um yeah, other than like minute architectural decisions.
Sure.
I think for our specific strategy we needed more technology than the average venture fund, for sure.
Another kind of good related question. Have you seen new hiring needs in venture for call it product or tech roles, agent deployment, uh, data management that you maybe haven't seen before? And like, is this changing or any predictions on how like the team evolution changes in the near to medium term?
I think like I think specifically in venture, there are a lot of things that people do that are more performative. Not like performative in a bad way, but just like mundane, redundant tasks. I think everybody in the next 5 years is just going to up level their skill to be like more creative thinkers. I and by way of example, I'll use our you know some of the portfolio development stuff. I know Alex has been, because Alex is a good example because her role at the beginning was sort of not, there wasn't as much technology there other than interfacing with the tools that we've built. And now
Hmm.
she's been able to use a bunch of the off the shelf Claude tools Claude or whatever AI tools to kind of augment her workflow without us, without the technology team, right? Because the other context is we maintain probably a prompt library of 100 different prompts that we have that all have different purposes and workflows that are primarily related to investing and sourcing, but also can be related to, process efficiencies and improvements. But like, I think Alex has been able to cut down a ton of her time by taking a bunch of these tools off the shelf. And so like, I know that she's doing like a lot of, I know she's doing like a lot of inbox and email management with stuff like
Hmm.
that. And I'm I'm excited to see, and because of this, she's been able to free up a bunch of time to do things like put together like a Rebel resource hub, right? So now we have this place for our founders that, you know, they're well resourced. They have like all of Y Combinator behind them. They have all of Bookface. So like, what can we uniquely value add? And then Alex is like constantly building that out, right? That's something she just wouldn't have had time for in the early days.
Yeah. All right. I love it. I think that's a good kind of wrap on section two around the founder data problem and kind of shifting to now taking action. The first question, you kind of teased this out a little bit already, but you have clean, live data, invisible. You haven't had to chase founders for it, right? It's getting parsed and sent in. What you gave us like the one little nugget already of we were able to quickly with one of our LPs pull up something about the portfolio company revenue and our mark on it. What else is possible? Maybe that wasn't possible before.
Yeah, one thing that I think still spend, but I think over the next year, it'll almost be a negligible amount of our time, is like putting together LP reporting decks. I think with Visible, one thing that we've been able to do is use that data and just automate all of the charts that we have in there and basically automate the entire deck. So now all that we need to do is generate the charts. We have some script that will do that. And by the way, you don't need to be a technical wizard now to kind of put together one of those scripts, right? All you need to do is have Claude code, right? And
Yeah.
so now what you can do is kind of we're able to put together these charts that we've had, and maybe they were in like some bespoke spreadsheet, but they took a bunch of manual tweaking. And then there's always issues that come up with things that are only human, audited, right? We're able to have like a super formulaic way. So we just click a button, we get all the charts that we need for our update deck. We swap, we duplicate the deck, we change what we need to change, we drop in the charts and send it out, we're good to go. Visible's made that possible.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's my theory too. Is like the last mile. I call it like the last mile of design problem.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to like the logistics problem, but it's like I feel like everyone kind of has their unique reporting mechanism or format or form factor, and they want to keep that, which makes complete sense. And like Claude and some of these other OpenAI, they're making it possible now to just to automate all of it, which is really compelling. What are you actually using to put the deck together? Is it like slides,
Google.
Keynote, Google Slides? Okay,
Google
yeah,
Slides. Yeah.
yeah,
And
awesome.
honestly, we could automate it end to end, right? Like we could programmatically duplicate it. We could insert all of the slide, we could insert all the charts by hand. That said, it kind of feels like more trouble than it's worth. And also
Sure.
like you want to have somebody looking at it, right?
Yeah,
And like having that manual forcing function of putting them all in, looking at the things, being like, this tracks is good.
yeah, yeah. Great. Um, I'm curious, are you using any of the portfolio data on Visible to feed the Rebel Theorem algorithm for making investment decisions?
Uh No. And that just has to do with all of our data needs to be point in time relevant. We have
Yeah,
200 we have 250 different or 225 different features that go into the algorithm. And it's a lot of work to make sure everything is um it's all the information that we had before the batch started,
yeah,
right? Because like you have founders from 2008 who have done like had amazing careers after their YC company. You want to make sure that that does not pollute anything. And how this relates back to kind of what you were saying was everything invisible is kind of post investment,
yeah,
and so and we only have it for the companies that we've invested in. Um, so it's harder to use for sourcing.
yeah. Uh,
Actually,
you
you know what? That's not true. We do use one thing. Um,
okay?
we have value. So we maintain current valuations of every YC company ever. One of the steps in that algorithm, if you want to call it that, or just like process or business logic, let's call it that. One of the steps in the business logic is to first and foremost pull the valuations from Visible because those are ones that we know are correct.
Makes sense. Um, Kind of talking about some of the sourcing algorithm, the Rebel. So you're predicting YC outcomes at like a 70% accuracy rate, which is awesome. How much of that depends on the quality and consistency of the data versus the sophistication of the model itself?
It, um, I would argue that it has nothing to do with the sophistication of the model itself.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
all 100%. It's the same thing with all machine learning. I think that's machine learning's dirty little secret is it's like you have a set of sort of off the shelf models you can pull from unless you're in academia doing or Google that can just throw years and years and years of research at new models. Um, eh, like it's all in data formatting, making sure the data is correct and relevant, right? So like it's all about, and we're starting to reach maturation with our, of like how much more we can add. And so we're finding different places in the sourcing stack that we can really improve, which is great. So yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of what I
Yeah.
meant there.
Great. Um, a couple relevant questions here that are coming in, so I think we'll jump to those. Because one, we're going back to LP reporting. Um, what is your timing for LP reporting? We tend to struggle to get updated quarter data from all portfolio companies in a timely manner, even with useful tools that capture clean that. Like how do you manage the turnaround time, especially like 250 companies? Do LPs ever complain about it as well?
It's a really good question, and I think it's something that we really struggled with until our managing director Luis sort of put a process in place. We do it by quarter, so we actually don't update Visible the second we know information about a round. We update a spreadsheet that then at the end of the quarter we go in and basically redo all of our marks. And so we have a spreadsheet that we maintain throughout the quarter. Then at the end of the quarter, we lock the spreadsheet and say no more. We go in, update everything, make sure that everything is marked to the right, whatever, or make the adjustments that we need to do. And then after that, once the data has been inserted into the appropriate systems of record, Visible, Carta, so on and so forth, then we kind of kick off the LP reporting. And so, yeah. The one thing I will say though is one thing we have been able to automate with Visible by kind of using your guys' APIs is initial insertion of companies. So in Airtable, we use Airtable to kind of
Mm-hmm.
use a lot of our flows. Once somebody triggers, basically says, "Okay, we're investing," that sends like a webhook to our backend, and then it inserts and creates a company record in Visible. And for obvious reasons, well, not obvious, but for reasons, we do not insert any of the investment information, but we're able to create the record, create the contacts, create everything. And like all of that is done and managed automatically, including our company properties. So like where the company is, the location, the tag, whatever tags we have, the batch, the investing, whatever.
Yeah. Um, a good question here, kind of related to actioning on data. So I'll hit on this one too. Separate from LP reporting, are you using Visible for any kind of internal decision making, portfolio construction, follow-on decisions, or is that living outside of Visible?
Um, we we obviously take a look at how the company is done invisible to date, like some of the probably the metrics and some of the investing rounds and so on and so forth. But a lot of our our strategy post initial investment is to exercise our pro rata in the A for majority of the companies.
Okay.
We're selective, like there are reasons why we wouldn't, and we're definitely selective at some level. But I think it's more we're more looking deal by deal, and there's not really much additional data that we put into Visible that will help us make that decision.
Okay. Great. Any signals so far that have just surprised you? If you hadn't built out this model or Rebel Theorem, I think I saw one like way back in the even about like what kind of profile photo a founder uses on LinkedIn is like one of the inputs. Any other fun or interesting anecdotes?
Um, well, so one big thing I think about AI, like AI and machine learning are they're the same, but kind of two different things, if you think about it. And the way you can apply AI to machine learning, I think, is actually more feature generation. So what you're referring
Mm,
to is we'll ingest kind of their LinkedIn photo and ask questions about it, like, is this person wearing glasses? Is this person clean shaven? Is this person yada yada yada? Those kind of become features in the model, but beyond that, we'll also have things. We'll ask AI to score. We'll take company descriptions and so on and so forth, and then founder history, based on kind of like what they've done or how they've talked about themselves around the internet. And say like, how qualified is this person to take or to do this company? How qualified is this person to deal with these regulatory constraints? How qualified is X,
mm,
Y, and Z? Say rank it 1 to 5, and those become features as well. It's something that's becoming more and more common in the machine learning community, but I think, could be wrong about this, we were the first to do it, but I
mm,
could be wrong.
yeah, yeah,
Um, um, so yeah.
good. Let's move on to section 4. Kind of, we talked about the stack quite a bit already. Let me see if there's anything we haven't hit on here. Um, what's like one use case you haven't cracked yet that you're most excited to figure out? Like, is there anything that's like, oh, we haven't figured out this part of the stack? It feels like there's an opportunity here. Um, yeah, anything that's like
Um,
you're chomping at the bit to get to.
More AI and more investment from the technology side in an OpenClaw instance. Uh,
Oh
I
yeah,
know it sounds, I know it's that, and the MCP is like a big part. Your guys is what you've built with the
yeah.
MCP, like integrating with stuff there and kind of getting more of our portfolio data into AI and being able to ask questions in a more salient way. I think for sure is something that we really would like to do better on. I will caveat this with, Jared, our managing partner, is just like he's been so not only so supportive, but also like really put his time where his mouth is. He's like, we now have two different OpenClaw instances. One is our IR bot, and then one is our portfolio development bot. And so we haven't, ironically, we haven't adopted as much on the technology side. We do obviously use Cloud Code, and we have a bunch of, you know, PR comment stuff that we'll use for AI. But like, in terms of like, I think that there's a massive opportunity to really double down there. And like in the coming months, that's like one big thing that we're going to do. So, and then, so there's that for the technology side of things to kind of build out more technology more quickly and faster and more resilient. And then I think the other one is to just like get all of our data into AI in a way that it can read it. That's not, because like some of the MCPs like won't really work for us. So like if
Mhm.
we connect to the Airtable MCP, our Airtable instance is just like way too big for you to actually ask questions about it. Like it just doesn't
Oh,
work. So like the data that comes out is total nonsense and garbage, and it thinks for forever. It churns through a million different tokens, and like unless you're asking something very specific, but if you want to ask analytical questions, it just doesn't work. And so I think we'll need to figure out a way to get the infrastructure to allow, you know, AI to communicate with it for us to be able to do better questions and stuff.
how do you think about, you mentioned OpenClaw. How do you think about like governance, security, like and all of that as you're starting to adopt some of these fairly like aggressive AI solutions where they have computer control, screen control? Like how have you had any discussions about that internally?
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. And we've had like some small things with the AI bot going a little rogue. We had a little um we were reorganizing our Google Drive,
Hmm.
and our open cloud is called Alberto, and Alberto went a little crazy on the open or on the Google Drive. Fortunately, we didn't lose anything. Nothing was, you know, it was all fine. But you know, you do have to be super careful. I think definitely making sure it's not on your own machine, making sure it doesn't have delete permissions, making sure like you like when you're using it, it's siloed into its own specific thing. But honestly, we are such believers that there's so much more value that can be created than the potential downside. Especially if you have redundancy, right? Like we maintain redundancy for everything we have. And so if it does really go crazy, it's not like that big of an issue. It's like a day of us trying to like restore things that we have. And nothing for us is like, oh, if it got lost, like we can restore everything in our data stack just by kind of either regenerating scripts, rerunning things. Nothing is if we lose something, it's not lost forever.
Sure. Yeah.
Just and that's the nature of all the data being on the internet, right? Like you can just go repull it.
Yeah. Awesome. We got a few more minutes left, so I want to move to section five and then wrap some questions. We recently, I'll throw this in chat here in a second. So we put out a report recently, interviewing a lot of our customers or funds in our network that are not customers, and sounds pretty obvious at this point, but 81% of VC investors are confident AI is going to transform their firm. I mean, we just heard from you even just about Alberto and OpenClaw. But what's interesting is 40% built zero new workflows in the past 90 days when you put the Q1 report together. So like, where is the gap of like the belief, but it's actually like not happening in like day to day? Like from where you sit, like, is there any like observation or advice you would give to someone that's looking to take action?
There was one thing that I did with my team, the engineering team. I said like for it was 3 or 4 months ago. I said don't do anything this week, just figure out how to use AI better. And
Mm,
honestly, like you know, I was you know, and I pointed them in the directions of the tools that I really wanted them to kind of double down on, and it has yielded the best ROI of any of the time we could spend, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day minutia of the tasks you need to do. But if you can, and it's hard to build things, right? It's hard to learn how to use new tools. Like I'm no stranger to, you know, not wanting to, you know, figure out something. I tend to like to figure out new things, but I get why you would be like, this is annoying and I just don't care. Or not that I don't care, but like I just don't have time, right? you got to build in the time because it really is just work. Like it is work to make your work easier. So like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it seems like just such a pain right now. But like you have to make that investment, whether it's hiring somebody to go and sort of figure it out. I'm not sure I believe in. I think like you really need to audit your workflows and how you do work, and then figure out how I is going to work for you.
Mm, I love that. For anyone that's on the data or engineering side right now listening, like what's one thing you would tell them to do in the next 90 days?
I mean, I think that there are the obvious ones. Like if you aren't coding with Claude Code, what are you doing? But like, um, I guess so you were talking specifically for venture teams,
Yeah.
um, and data engineering teams at venture funds.
Yeah, I just kind of like yeah, exactly. Like data platform engineering teams at venture funds. Like, is there anything that you would implore or encourage them to do in the next 90 days? We kind of talked about like, even just giving permission to spend a week thinking about adopting AI, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
Mm. Um, yeah, I mean, I would argue that a week isn't enough, right? Like these tools are so robust and vast, like figuring out what your skill stack is going to be, figuring out what different type, like it's not just saying use Claude Code, although that is the 80/20 of the problem, but the last 20% of figuring out skill, like figuring out what are the different niche things around AI that you can use. Whether it's skills, I've seen like so many creative applications of skills as like, this is, like this is my senior developer skill. This is my, yada, yada, yada skill. Um, yeah, I guess I would say that. The other thing is like, whenever you find yourself being redundant in AI, just like make a skill for it. All you have to do is ask AI to make the skill for it. What, like we have so many skills, one of which is like our Rebel branding skill, right? And so
Yeah.
like now everything we have like from the data side comes out Rebel branded. It's all really nice. It's all super formatted. And it's a little thing, doesn't really matter, probably not, but it's so easy now, right? It took 20 seconds. And it's like a nice little touch that, adds to the culture of the firm.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna wrap here in a minute. So if you have any final questions, let me know. I'm gonna touch on one of them here. At what portfolio size or AUM did each tool become essential versus like nice to have? So, I mean, I think we might have even shared AUM to give you kind of a rough idea of Rebel, but like when did Google Sheets break for you? What triggered your first tool purchase?
Yeah. So originally, I think so when Jared started the firm, we had the EA was kind of a dual role. It was data entry and it was data entry as well as being an EA. And so she would go in and manually kind of do all of the founders and do all of the companies, and it would all kind of live in Airtable. Uh, you get to investing in like a couple batches, and you're like, we want to make this model. A lot of our technology, just actually every technology, I think decision we've made, and I think Jared would back this up. Not every, but 99% of them have been driven by having a better model, having a better
Mm-hmm.
way of figuring out the top 40 companies. Like that is the most important thing that we do. Nothing else really matters if we can't do that well. But by having that as the gold star, you then start to build off this infrastructure. So, we have this manual person doing it. Then we hire like a software engineer to kind of do a POC to just get the annoying things. Then they start doing the complicated things. Then they start, yeah, and then at some point you just have this really complex tech stack. And then you look around like, what can you do with this, right? You're 4 years down the road, you have so much data. Like, is there signal in this thing that we were curious about but never existed before, right? So as Y Combinator's gotten bigger and as we have gotten bigger, we've like leaned on this, but things break all the time, and we're just constantly building new tools for it.
Yeah. Great final question then. So kind of looking 1 to 2 years out, what's on Rebels, like what's on your roadmap that does not exist in SaaS yet? Is there anything you're building because like the market hasn't caught up yet?
Well, we built a few things that I think we're like fairly proud of that I think was cool. One of them was the um, AI inbox thing, which now
Yep.
the market has caught up. And then the other one, we do a lot of our investment memos. We do drafts of the investment memos with AI. And so we have so much data about every single company. Like we can put together most of the investment memo with AI, and then we take the human after and be like, was this what we were thinking, right? And we're even using things like our circle back notes. So when we get on calls, it goes to circle back. Then we're able to like ingest it with a webhook and then like kind of include that in our AI workflows. And so everything will be connected. But once again, it's like there's still some engineering plumbing. There's like the plumbing of the internet that you have to deal with if you want to be able to leverage it to its max.
Awesome. Uh, Justin, thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with us in the Visible community here. Thanks for everyone for joining us as well. Ton of engaged questions. So appreciate it. Again, we'll send out the recording, a recap within the next week or so, typically, if not sooner. But see everyone out there. And everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. See ya.